Hello and very warm welcome to the Arise interview, 60 minutes of big questions about the big stories from the news and beyond with fresh insights and critical analysis. I am Christian Ogodo. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the next hour, the signs are ominous with a tensed political atmosphere. In the last 48 hours, unfolding events in the state, Edo, has shown the height of what some political analysts have come to describe as political rascality, lawlessness, and a looming constitutional crisis. But for others, it is normal what is happening. From the impeachment of Deputy Speaker of the House, Ize-Iyamu, to the illegal invasion of the State House of Assembly by security agencies, the governor and his deputy, which led to a protest and the removal of the roof of the National Assembly in the guise of renovating the State House of Assembly, to the illegal and unconstitutional impeachment of the Speaker of the House of Assembly. What is illegal there? 17 members impeaching a 9-member-led Speaker, Frank Okiye. Well, they say outside the Assembly. It's legitimate abode by 17 lawmakers allegedly loyal to the APC, erstwhile APC chairman Adams Oshomole. But does this political crisis in the state not portend grave danger to the country? Many are wondering if political activities in Nigeria are not guided by such rules. Today, we'll speak. The spokesman of the People's Democratic Party at the 11th hour, just before we came on air, had called off coming to our studios because, according to him, he had a very crucial meeting at the state PDP secretariat. We'll also be talking to a former speaker of Edo State, the former speaker of Edo State, Thomas Okosu, who is a stalwart of the APC. And here in the studio, I have a lawyer, Barrister Frank Tietie, who is a public commentator. Well, some people might find politics in Nigeria very intriguing and fascinating at the same time. Well, the unfolding drama in Edo State paints a clear picture of how politics sometimes is played or performed. The governorship election will be keenly contested by the incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki of the People's Democratic Party, and Osazie Ize-Iyamu of the All Progressives Congress. A straight fight between the two dominating political parties ahead of the September 19th election. But there's a leadership crisis already rocking the State House of Assembly. The legality of the impeachment of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker are in question here. And the style of operation deployed by security agencies, some people are criticizing that over the takeover of the State House of Assembly. Also, the sudden renovation, like we said earlier, of the state's legislative complex has been questioned. Intriguing political development, you would say. Well, groups of women have marched on the streets of Benin protesting the purported impeachment of the House Speaker, Frank Okiye.
At the house, at the see television, especially yesterday, I see the crisis where he did this, this here, House of Assembly. Who know they hear Benin, who know they hear Oyibo, if they hear come. I can't hear some for inside. As another tribe come Benin or Saita. This kind of thing, we Benin, we not like them. This one I overpress. The one overpress Obaseki, our Obaseki. When me they interested for this matter, be say, where me they we have no go so road not there before. To come to road to enter motor, we go spend million before we enter motor. But this time now, we dey for house drive enter road. No erosion again. Erosion no come carry any of our house again. For that reason, I must support Obaseki. May he come out.
We are here today because of crisis going on in Benin. We came to register our disappointment at our politicians. All we want is for them to fix Benin. As we go into this election, all we ask for is good leadership. May God give us leaders that will not destroy the state. Once they have destroyed the state, they will send their families abroad. We don't have the money to send our children abroad. Benin is our home. May this election be peaceful and not destroy the city.
And for more on these political developments, I've now been joined from Edo State by Thomas Okosun, a former speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly, and in our studios here with me, Barrister Frank Tietie. He is a lawyer and a public commentator. Well, remember that earlier we're supposed to have the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, but at the 11th hour, he opted out because, according to him, there is a crucial national meeting that they are having at the PDP Secretariat. Gentlemen, very warm welcome to the Arise interview. Maybe I should start with you, Thomas Okosu in Benin, who's joined us via WebEx. It is obvious that the inauguration of the assembly at midnight, 9 members by Governor Godwin Obaseki, must have set the tone for this crisis, must have inflamed the political situation that we're seeing in the state, particularly the House of Assembly. What are your thoughts here?
Well, thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate the fact that you started very well the genesis of this crisis concerning the Edo State House of Assembly, wherein the governor forcefully have 9 members inaugurated in the House of Assembly at 9:45 p.m. One of them wearing knicker, another one wearing slippers, to a purported inauguration. All because he didn't want the entire 24 members of the House of Assembly, who were then members of the same party with him, the All Progressives Congress. People seem to have forgotten this urgently. That Obaseki was an APC member, and those who were supposed to be inaugurated last year were all APC members, people that were duly and properly voted for by their constituents in the entire state. 14 of them, 9 of the only 9 were inaugurated, 15 were left, and then another one was kidnapped. But it has become history, and since then we went to court as to the legality of the proclamation letter issued by the governor, and then the court said, well, the proclamation issued by the governor stands. And so all attempt to have them inaugurated all this while, the then speaker that was impeached yesterday tried to frustrate it because he himself and Obaseki had got themselves entangled in illegalities in the state. But by yesterday, as God will have it, and wisdom prevailed, that 17 of those 20, even among the 9 of them that were initially there, some of them left and to join the other 14, and they became 17. And I can tell you that as we speak, there are already 20 of the members united as against the other 4. What is the reason? The people say
Okay, I think there's a little audio problem there. We'll get it sorted. But let me turn to you, Frank Tietie. Speaker Okosun has just set the tone, really, to look at the genesis of the crisis. Because they say there is no smoke without fire, right? And that's what he's trying to paint. Was it right to have inaugurated 9 out of 24 member assembly at night?
Interestingly, law doesn't deal with sentiments or political correctness. Law is plain and simple. The Constitution is clear to everybody. It's written in plain English. If we are looking at Genesis, I think maybe we should probe a bit further to the premonitions and the fears that the governor entertained, a fear of being unnecessarily controlled from Abuja, a fear of a political romance that has turned sour between himself and his political godfather, Adams Shomole. So, those kind of things lead to, in politics, what they call political expediency, making him to take those decisions. So, the point that should be noted is,
I'll allow you.
Are they legal?
I'll allow you make those legal and constitutional points. Let's cross back to the Edo State capital, Benin, where we have Thomas Okosu back. Thomas, you were trying to articulate, the genesis of the crisis and the last 24 hours that, as of today, there are 20 members with Edoro, the new speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. You want to continue on that line of thought?
Yes, I will continue that. But before I do that, let me quickly remind my brother over there that whatever the constitution of this country and the law of our land does not consider whether the governor is afraid of Comrade Adams Shomole or someone else there being able to control the House of Assembly. Because the law is clear. The legislative arm of government is the primus inter pares. It's number one in our constitution. And it is the legislature that makes what you talk about when you talk about democracy. Without the legislative arm of government, there is no democracy. Because under a military rule, you still have the executive and the judiciary functioning. Once you truncate and frustrate the ability of the legislature to function, then you have what you have enshrined is dictatorship. And that cannot be allowed. And yesterday, I want to say what happened yesterday in Edo State. That
Godwin Obaseki, we're having a little APC technical problem. We'll sort it by the time we go on a commercial break. But Frank, let's have your overview there. He's said that the Constitution is very clear.
Well, I will start that my interest is the stability of this country and to ensure that we all abide by the plain tenets of the Constitution and we practice the constitutional democracy. We may be an interested party. I'm not an interested party to the extent, and I'm only an interested party to the extent that we see the laws of this country being respected. Now, Section 96 of the Constitution is clear. It states that the quorum of the State House of Assembly shall be 1/3. And at the time the State House of Assembly of Edo State was being inaugurated, 9 out of 24 is a number that is above the 1/3 of 24. So at that point, let us be very clear. The issue, he made reference to the fact that the sentiments expressed as to the fears by the governor are not constitutional, but it is also constitutional that it's not also constitutional that we don't have to swear in those persons at any particular time. So for political expediency, for whatever reason, those persons were sworn at an odd hour, it's a matter of fact that the court should resolve. However, for the purpose of Section 96 of the Constitution, the Edo State House of Assembly is properly constituted with 9 members.
Okay, thank you very much. Good place to apply the brakes. We'll go on a short commercial break now. When we return, we'll be interrogating the Edo House of Assembly imbroglio. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Arise interview with me, Christian Ogodo. Thanks for staying with us, and we're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. For more on these political developments, I'm still with Thomas Okosu, is a former Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. He's in Benin City, and he joined us via WebEx. And here in the studio, I have Barrister Frank Tietie. He is a lawyer and a public commentator. I think I should go back. Let's go back to Benin City and allow Thomas Okosu to conclude his opening thoughts, which have been interjected, with some little technical hitches over the internet. Thomas?
Yes. Once again, before I proceed, I'd like to quickly tell my brother over there that the application of Section 91 of the Constitution comes into play when you talk of quorum only when membership has been established. As at the time the House of Assembly was inaugurated, the full membership was not established, and so what is the quorum of 20 of the members? If you are talking of a quorum, you will be talking of quorum of 9. But the real quorum is only when the membership had been established, and the membership had not been established as at the time they did that. But let's come back to what happened yesterday. Yesterday, it is in public domain, everybody saw it, when the governor, his deputy, the then speaker, and others invaded the Edo State House of Assembly, and in order to prevent the city legitimate function of the House of Assembly, they invaded there. They not only invaded there, they brought in, as at yesterday, they started to remove the roof. You saw them publicly. You saw them bringing granite, gravels, and all sands to start demolishing the house. If you go to the Edo State House of Assembly today, the entire place has been completely vandalized by Governor Godwin Obaseki and his deputy and others, just to stop the functioning of the legislative arm of government. And that's why I said to you that once you stop the legislators from functioning, what you have established is dictatorship. But I want to say to you that Edo people are wiser. They will not allow that to happen. And so they have resisted them. And by yesterday, luckily enough, the members, 17 of the members out of the 24, from the 14, let me first say that the 14 members got themselves properly inaugurated yesterday, thus establishing the full membership of the House of Assembly, which is now 24 members. So when you are talking of quorum now, you can be talking of 8 out of 24. So the real quorum as from today is now 8. And as I speak to you, Governor Obaseki only have, as at yesterday, had 7 members, so which means they cannot on their own sit outside these other 17 members because they cannot form a quorum anymore. But as at today, like I said to you, they have been depleted to become 4. So Godwin Obaseki does not have I don't know what to call them. They are now those who are with him or claim to be with PDP. They are now in minority. They are 4, and APC have 20 of the 24 members House of Assembly. We believe that those who defected with him before will come back to their house, which is the All Progressives Congress, which is the party that on top of which they got elected. Obaseki is gone. He has become a bad market. We leave him. Let him do whatever he's doing there. But by 19th of September. We will test our strength in this state to know who really owns this land, whether it is APC or PDP, because we gave him a ticket. Some time ago, I granted an interview, and I said that the man was going on a very wrong path, that he wanted to destroy a party, we would not allow him to destroy it, and that we have taken the ticket, the APC ticket from him, and that he cannot take it by force. And true to type, he tried to contest, he has lost it, the ticket is with us. I want to also prophesy again today that the governorship election will be won cleanly and clearly by the All Progressives Congress, APC in Edo State, and Godwin Obaseki will become history. I say this with all confidence because for more than 1 year, the people we would have lost the election if we did not have the people inaugurated yesterday. That had been his agenda, to destroy APC and walk away. But we are not going to allow him. We did not allow him. We waited, hoping that he would wake up one day and do the right thing. Since our people woke up yesterday and said, look, we submit ourselves, and they have been properly inaugurated. The house is now in our hand, with APC. Let him try. I want to say one interesting thing too, that the 2 members who got inaugurated yesterday comes from Governor Godwin Obaseki's local government, his constituency, Oredo local government. They are members from his own, if you like, what you would have called household. But he didn't want them to be inaugurated. They have been inaugurated. And then we know who are those that truly believe that people love in Edo State by September 19th when the election will be conducted. So what happened yesterday is the restoration of democracy, which had been destroyed since last year. And now we have confidence that, yes, Godwin Obaseki cannot walk away with all the forms of illegality that he got himself involved in. What do I mean by this?
Okay, Thomas, let me put you on hold there so that we can get some legal and constitutional opinion on some of the issues you have raised. Barrister, the first issue here is that 12 of the 17 members, they've now grown to 20 members, were never inaugurated during the proclamation by Governor Obaseki, even though it was done at night. And the speaker had said, you cannot inaugurate 9 members out of a 24-member parliament. My question here is, does the law recognize those 12 members elect? That is what some analysts want to describe them as.
I think we should be careful here. We've seen consequences of running roughshod of the law in the 60s, in the First and Second Republic. And all of these things are replaying here. Now, Section 93 of the Constitution clearly states that you must, as a member of, for you to function as a member of the State House of Assembly, you must subscribe to an oath that is administered by the Speaker. And then the Speaker can only be elected by members of the by the State House of Assembly that are present upon the proclamation according to Section 105 of the Constitution. These persons clearly, we know as a matter of fact, not from the point of political patronage, that these persons have not complied with the provisions of the Constitution. If the governor is able to convince a federal high court that indeed a proclamation has been made which stopped the National Assembly from making a move to take over those State House of Assembly, why are we now considering now gathering outside the law? It doesn't matter what the number is. So long as after the proclamation pursuant to Section 105 has been made by the governor, and the Federal High Court of Port Harcourt was clear that the governor cannot make a proclamation twice. So when the part of law should have been that these persons who were not inaugurated in the first instance should have put in place machinery to be first of all inaugurated. But to now take to this kind of brigandage and desecration of the Constitution, all in the name of political desperation, is a dangerous, signal. For those of us who are students of history of this country, we know what the Wild Wild West was in 1962 to 1964 and 65. These are the things. This is not the first time Edo State is rattling this country. We saw this also in 2014 under the governorship of Adams Oshomole, when it's also involving 4 people. These people should spare us some peace. We must, as a people, limit the place of politics and appear to be governed by law so that we can have an orderly society. These are not members, they are not yet members, and I wonder on what basis, where did they hold the meeting, where they now inaugurated themselves? Who inaugurated them? Which speaker? The substantive speaker at that time, according to law, as a matter of fact, was the one they claimed to have impeached, and it cannot be so.
Okay.
So the federal government, and particularly the Honorable Attorney General, at this time should be very wary and very, very careful, because you don't use opportunities of for political reasons to now circumvent and twist the clear provisions of the law.
All right, let's just quickly return to Benin again and join. Okay, it's time for a break. When we return, we'll go over to Benin to meet up with Thomas Okosu, who is a former speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. You're still watching the Arise interview. We've got more still ahead. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Rise interview with me, Christian Nogodo. Thanks for staying with us. I say I have our guests here, but let's cross to the Edo State capital, Benin City, and ask the former speaker, Thomas Okosu. It was learned, Thomas, that the governor of Edo State, during the inauguration over a year ago, had prevented the 12 members that today have now formed the fulcrum of the Edo State House of Assembly, that is the majority, from being inaugurated, that some of them were chased away. You were on ground then. You want to tell us some of the issues? Okay, let me turn to Barrister Frank Tietie to answer that question. Those was, what played out at the midnight inauguration of the 9 members, these 12 members were not allowed access to the State House of Assembly. And does it not, amaze you that a legislative arm of government is being inaugurated at night?
Well, a lot of possibilities in politics. I'm not a politician.
The laws are clear.
But you see,
from
politics. No. The interesting thing is this: where the law does not, where there is conflict with regards to the interpretation of the law, you approach the law courts, and that's what we should expect, and not throw the place into confusion. By the way, it is particular reference to Section 94, which insists that there must be inauguration, or you must subscribe to the oath which is administered by the Speaker before any person can perform as a member of the House of Assembly. Now, that is very, very important. Now, as to the timing, interestingly, they have already approached the court on this matter, and the court has declared. The National Assembly, as a matter of fact, to the best of my knowledge, issued a direct threat to Governor Obaseki that you must issue that proclamation again, because nothing could be more unfair to inaugurate a 9-member house
out of 24.
But Obaseki had approached the court. I believe it's Ize-Iyamu himself who took Obaseki and the APC to court, and the National Assembly to court.
A federal high court in Port Harcourt. Why didn't they approach the federal high court in Benin or the state high court?
It's a matter of forum shopping. So long as there is no law against it, they have shopped for a forum that they thought will give a favorable judgment.
Isn't that dangerous to our democracy?
The other party had an opportunity to also make an application with regards to that forum. It happened in the case of James Ibori. It was, first of all, the FCC started forum shopping by taking James Ibori's case to Kaduna, but for one application or the other, the matter was transferred back to Asaba, because there is also a court of the competent jurisdiction in Asaba at that time. So it's a matter, it's left to them. The courts will not conduct their case to them. But so long as there is an application before the court will always rule on it. So our concern here as citizens of this country is that the precedents and the signals that come from Edo State amount to political brigandage, and there should be no basis for it. This is a state that is going into elections in the next few weeks. So why would they embroil the whole place in this kind of political confusion? The law is clear. These are not them. If they sought to be members, they should have, and they had the opportunity. The courts were there. Cases were filed in Abuja. Cases were filed in Port Harcourt. And so long as the court has made a declaration, that becomes law. We forget that law is not only what is written here. It is actually whatever the courts say that the law is that amounts to law.
Okay. You are aware that just 24 hours ago, the governor prevented these same members, the 12, 17 members, from accessing the State House of Assembly. So the governor seems to be the progenitor of this crisis.
These are matters of fact you are telling me. I am neither a player nor an interested party in what's going on in Edo State. I have made my interest very clear. It is about the law and the fact that there should be some peace and order in this country of ours, and that what's happening in Edo State is needless. But let me tell you something. It is, what if the governor, as reported, has made, indeed, because an allegation, I cannot prove that or disprove that, but if indeed the governor has prevented these men from entering the National Assembly because he considers them to be, to not have such a law.
But the physical evidence
Let me tell you,
Frank.
it's also
the physical evidence
no.
are there. He removed the roofs and, poured gravel, sand, all in the name of renovation. How auspicious was that?
It only shows you the sacrosanctity of the premises, the precincts of the State House of Assembly. Because I believe
that precinct was violated.
I believe it
was violated.
It depends on who did the violation.
The governor.
Well, I don't know. That's your opinion.
No, not my opinion. That's what we have on record, on video.
I saw
the governor did not deny that.
I saw that video. I didn't see Governor Obaseki removing roof. I think it's still a subject of inquiry. However, I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is follow the law. So long as the sacrosanctity of that building is that
only people who have right to enter that building should actually be there. So if the governor in his wisdom has considered that certain persons do not have the right to enter the building, so be it. I won't question that. I won't question that. The point is that the
does he superintend over the legislature? It's a separate arm of government.
It's a separate and independent arm of government.
Sure.
But he does have a role. He has played his role by issuing a proclamation pursuant to Section 105 of the Constitution. And by virtue of that proclamation, there is already a speaker and a deputy speaker and 9 members. And if there is anything that will proceed from there legally, it has to be from the speaker. These other 17 members ought to have, first of all, been sworn to an oath by the speaker. If that has not been done, then they don't have a legal ground to do whatever they are doing. And whatever they are doing now becomes illegal, illegitimate, and to a large extent, criminal.
If they were prevented from entering the house, does it not behoove of them to find a venue where they can exercise their legislative rights?
Absolutely wrong. Very, very wrong.
What makes it wrong?
Very, very wrong, because the Constitution, apart from the clarity of the Constitution, the Supreme Court has deprecated and described a move of any kind of meeting held outside the designated House of Assembly to be a ridiculous absurdity. And I mean, it's annoying. In fact, the Supreme Court could not hold its emotions by describing such a council to have, fallen so low, to have brought that kind of argument in the name of advocacy. So it cannot be contemplated whatsoever according to our law, and then by the proclamation of the Supreme Court for any meeting of the State House of Assembly to be held outside the particular building, the designated building. It is there in the case of Adeleke and Inokuju. That went all the way to the Supreme Court. It's a very dramatic case involving Rashidi Ladoja. He was reinstated. So we should stop this kind of action that want to describe us as persons who will never want to graduate into proper practice of democracy. It's annoying.
Okay, let's say if Thomas Okoso is with us. Okay, we're still having some technical issue there. See, what the 17, now 20 members are saying, if you have 20 members who say they are now superintending over the legislative arm of which they were elected members, where is the fate of the other 4 members if they are left with only 4 members now? Can they, 4 members, preside over an assembly?
Does it occur to us that all that has transpired so far could just be an illegality and of no consequence whatsoever?
From even the inauguration?
Yes, because we are...
the inauguration of the 9 members.
No.
Because that's you don't want to see it as the forerunner or the harbinger to this crisis, if you so call it.
It is not in anybody's place to describe an act to be whether it's legal or illegal where the court has already made a proclamation. If it was illegal for the governor to have made a proclamation that led to the inauguration of 9 members, the courts would have said so. The Federal High Court in Port Harcourt would have said so. It has not said so. This resort to self-help is what causes the kind of confusion and ultimate anarchy they keep banding all over the place. That is not what we want. See, for there to be, elementary law tells us that people should be able to look at the Constitution and know what to expect of political actions. But what we are doing is that out of the need to cause confusion, political desperate, and this whole thing is not even in the interest of the people. It is also continuously in the same old story of fighting for their personal interest against the interest of the people. If they have the interest of the people at heart, they wouldn't turn Edo State to the kind of tumultuous situation that it is at this moment.
But let's look at the governor himself. Once upon a time, he was in APC. He was the governor of that party until a few weeks ago when he now went to PDP. PDP had challenged Governor Obaseki's credentials and his election victory. If you come as a public commentator, what would you say must have changed now with a new romance with his new party?
The political expediency. And politics, clearly, is about self-interest taken too far. These men only pursue their interest and not the interest of the people. So, for the sake of political expediency, Governor Obaseki had decided to go to PDP. But it was not necessary in the first place for there to have been that kind of fight that existed between Obaseki and Oshomole. A lot of persons tell me that Governor Obaseki is such an ungrateful person. He didn't have any political background. Oshomole made him, but the goal of this whole process is it not good governance? So why, if Obaseki now begins to campaign that I am an apostle of good governance, and it's actually the subject matter of good governance that pitched me against Oshomole, it becomes a different story. So you cannot, canvass for political power in Nigeria without under the auspices of a political party. So Obaseki needed, as a matter of expediency again, necessity, to have entered the PDP. I don't want to go into those political issues. I make effort to desist from them.
I think they are very, very, like you used the word, severally, expedient, political expediency. It is important for our democracy, for you to really dissect this issue. First, let me bring to your notice that the Attorney General of the Federation has asked the Inspector General of Police, in fact, it's an order to provide security for the 20 members. So the police is with them, the DSS is with them, and the Attorney General of the Federation, because they are seen as the legitimate members of the House of Assembly.
Security to do what? Is it security to take over the business of the those State House of Assembly, or security to protect them because they are possibly at risk? So we don't know to that extent. The Attorney General, and what are we talking about? The Attorney General is the custodian, is the repository of the spirit and letter of Nigerian law. However, an order of court is superior to the directives or to the interpretation the Attorney General gives. Attorney General acts in the best interest of this country and not in the interest of APC or any other set of persons. So I would not fault the Attorney General if he has directed the Inspector General of Police to provide security for those persons. Of course, they are citizens of Nigeria, and at this time, this critical time, they need to be safe. Provide security for them. But it will be very, very wrong. It will be illegal for the Attorney General to support these persons at this time, when this law is so clear, when a court of law has made a proclamation, has made an order, and when these men are acting contrary to both the law and the order that has been made in the law court. I doubt if
but there's not been any pronunciation by the courts to say that they've acted contrary. They've only used their numbers, their majority, to have elected their own officials.
I elected him where? Outside the State House of Assembly? Elected him how? On what basis? When they didn't have, when they never subscribed to the oath of being members of the State House of Assembly? For goodness sake, if our laws can be selected and can be, discarded anyhow, then we might as well discard all the laws. You don't cherry pick the laws to obey. The Constitution is clear. Subscribe to an oath, then you become a member.
All right, Frank Tietie, let's take another message again. You're still watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the Arise interview with me, Christian Ogodo. Thanks for staying with us. I have a copy of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice letter to the Inspector General of Police, which reads, urgent and nationalistic appeal to interfere in the restoration of constitutional democracy in Edo State of Nigeria. It says, my office is in receipt of the letter dated 3rd August 2020 from Messrs. West Idausa and Co., requesting for the intervention of my office on behalf of its clients who are members of the Edo State House of Assembly, but who were refused or prevented from being inaugurated till date since the house was inaugurated on 17th June 2019. And that copy of the letter was attached. He said, the law firm has requested that the affected members-elect who are willing to discharge their constitutional roles should be inaugurated or sworn in by the clerk of the House. And of course, The letter reads further. So the Attorney General is acting on this, I mean, which, of course, you've been talking about legality and constitutionality. This is a very legal request. The members-elect, they want to discharge their duties. They say, let the clerk inaugurate us. And I think the deputy clerk of the Edo State House of Assembly, who was available, performed the function of the clerk in the absence of the clerk and duly inaugurated them. How is that an anathema?
It's an anomaly. It is not correct. It is unconstitutional. And the highly respected Honorable Attorney General Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice knows that well. Now, let's understand this. It is not the Attorney General that you appeal to when there is a dispute. It is in the place of the President to direct the Attorney General to advise him. Or parties, not necessarily parties, but interested persons to seek the Attorney General's advice.
Is that not what has been done here
No,
with this letter?
No. The Attorney General is clear that he is acting on the appeal, or rather application of a counsel, a counsel of an interested party. And nothing can be more illegal than when the Constitution has already specified in Section 94 that only the Speaker can administer the oath of membership. It is not the clerk. It is not the clerk. So I doubt very well that the clerk has the powers to inaugurate anybody. What should have happened, I must tell you, is that these members ought to have sought a way out of being inaugurated. They haven't said, Speaker, come and inaugurate us, and then it was prevented. If that is the request, then the Speaker would be wrong to have, and then the governor or whoever it is that has prevented the business of the Edo State House of Assembly from going on will be wrong.
That was what happened yesterday.
No. You cannot put something on nothing. The legal foundation is that there is already a speaker. Approach the speaker to be inaugurated, whether you are 17 or 20.
But the speaker has been impeached.
You don't even have the power to impeach the speaker.
By 20 members.
You cannot.
By
because
20 members.
You are standing on nothing. The foundation is that you should be a functional member of the Edo State House of Assembly. And the position is that you have to, first of all, swear to an oath.
But they were legitimately elected with their certificates of return.
That is not enough. It is not enough. I didn't say it. Section 94, I can read Section 94 clearly to you. Section 94 says, every person elected to the House of Assembly shall, before taking his seat in the House, declare his assets and liabilities in the manner prescribed and in the Constitution, and subsequently take and subscribe before the Speaker, not the clerk, and subscribe before the Speaker of the House the oath of allegiance and the oath of membership prescribed in the 7th schedule. What kind of confusion, unnecessary confusion is this? Is it because it is not your state? You don't as a result of political, let us win by all means, decide to desecrate our constitution. Can anything be clearer than this? You cannot be a member. You cannot take a seat unless a speaker inaugurates you by your subscription, by taking on the subscription to an oath of allegiance. Who is the speaker? You said you have removed him. When you have not been when you are not even a member, when you have not even taken your seat. What kind of confusion is this? So if the Attorney General is intervening in this manner, I very much doubt what the intention is. Because it is not in its place with most respect. It is not. And perhaps I believe that the import of that letter is that the Inspector General should provide them security, personal security, which is most needed at this time. But security to conduct business of a Edo State House of Assembly and then a directive to the clerk, that cannot be proper. That cannot be proper.
But I mean, you talked about protection, yes, because I think there is recognition here that these 20 members, 20 out of 24, where would you stand?
that is a majority.
Absolutely.
But the point is this. I don't know why, I don't want to sound like a broken record in this matter. The quorum, according to section 96, is that there should be 1/3. The Attorney General
at plenary sittings, and there are certain instances where the House will need 2/3 to pass some critical bills. For example, the budget and other critical state matters.
It is not that the Constitution is very clear on those matters.
Yeah.
What we are trying to establish here is the avoidance of unnecessary confusion that is being further foisted in the Edo State situation at this time. It should be avoided. It can indeed be avoided. And the only way to avoid it is for people like the Honorable Attorney General to take a neutral role, which I believe he has taken. Except that there is a misinterpretation to his letter. The clerk cannot swear them in. They are willing indeed to conduct legislative business, but the only way they should do that is by formally acknowledging. Look, the speaker.
The clerk swears in the speaker first, then the speaker would now swear in other members. That's what happened.
No.
And that was what happened.
The clerk
yesterday.
will superintend over the election of the speaker.
Yeah.
After the proclamation by the governor. The clerk is appointed according to the laws made by the previous assembly. So it is not that the clerk doesn't have the powers to, he doesn't. The speaker will now, the speaker will now administer the oath to them. So they must go back and do the proper thing.
But they are being prevented from doing it.
We are not aware of that. I am not aware of that. I need to see an application to the speaker that we want to resume legislative business. Come and swear us in. We are 17. And let the speaker say he will not. And then the Attorney General can now step in and say, provide them security. Let them march into that chambers and let them ask, let me move a motion that they want to be sworn in. They cannot. We must strive at all times to be governed by law.
If the chamber is being renovated according to the Edo State government or governor, where the roof is being ripped off and construction work started, shouldn't the assembly members meet in another place that is convenient?
No, they cannot. Interestingly, as a matter of fact, I went to school in Benin City, and so I know how big the State House of Assembly is. So I do not believe that if the chamber's roof has been taken off, does not mean that they don't have other quarters, other places where they can not meet inside the State House of Assembly. Let them proceed there. But they must be sworn in first by the extant speaker, not this new speaker. This new speaker does not have a basis. And I hope that we should not misinterpret what the letter that the Honorable Attorney General has written. It is not, he is not supposed to take sides, and do not think that he's taking sides. Security is key, and he has given the proper direction. They should have approached the court all this while to exercise their rights to be part of the State House of Assembly and not to come and create confusion.
Well, thank you very much. No better place for you to have applied the brakes. A very sweaty session there for you. Thanks very much, Frank Tietie, and of course our earlier guest, Thomas Okosu, former Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. Well, that's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Remember to join us again for another edition from me and the entire team here in Abuja and Benin City, the Edo State capital. Goodbye and thanks for watching.